Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Welcome to the continuing classes on the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Founder Acharya, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Today is the 9th of February 2022, 9 a.m. plus a few minutes. Sorry for being late again. And as usual, we'll start with His Divine Grace personally chanting the Mangalarcharana prayers. Please chant along with him, with us, as much as you know. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Introduction. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Siname, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatadi Satarine, Mukam Kroti Vachalam, Pangam Langayate Girim, Yat Kripatamaham Vande, Sri Gurum Dintarinam. By the mercy of the spiritual master, a lame man can cross over mountains, and a dumb man can compose eloquent poetry. Again, welcome. continuing the introduction of Bhagavad Gita as it is and always will be. So there hasn't, as far as I know, there hasn't been any class here on this time of day during the week since I gave class last. So we're continuing in the paragraph. When we are materially contaminated, we are called conditioned. It's in this small version. That's page 13, probably different in the version that you have. If you have any page numbers at all, you wouldn't have it online. So I'll read those first sentences again, which is 2 more sentences until we come to where we're starting today. False consciousness is exhibited under the impression that I am a product of material nature. This is called false ego. One who is absorbed in the thought of bodily conceptions cannot understand his situation. I'll repeat that. One who is absorbed in the thought of bodily conceptions cannot understand his situation. And continuing for today, Bhagavad Gita was spoken to liberate one from the bodily conception of life. And Arjuna put himself in this position in order to receive this information from the Lord. One must become free from the bodily conception of life. That is the preliminary activity, preliminary activity for the transcendentalist. One who wants to become free, who wants to become liberated, must first of all learn that he is not this material body. First of all, learn that he is not this material body. Mukti, or liberation, means freedom from material consciousness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also, the definition of liberation is given. Mukti means liberation from the contaminated consciousness of this material world and situation in pure consciousness. I'll repeat that. Mukti means liberation from the contaminated consciousness of this material world and situation in pure consciousness. All the instructions of Bhagavad Gita are intended to awaken this pure consciousness, and therefore we find at the last stage of the Gita's instructions that Krishna is asking Arjuna whether he is now in purified consciousness. Purified consciousness means acting in accordance with the instructions of the Lord. So when I say Aham Brahmasmi, or you hear me say, I am not this body, get it? We say, oh, the mind says, oh yeah, I've heard this. How many? Maybe 133,000 times. Maybe less, maybe more, according to how many years we've been struggling to practice Krishna consciousness seriously. So we think, oh yes, I've heard that. And the mind may say, well, yeah, I've got that. What's next? What's next? Or one day I'll get that. So either way, the mind says, yeah, I know. What's next? What's exciting? What's interesting? What's attractive? Why should I continue in this class? Why should I go to class at all? I always hear the same thing. Often hear the same thing. And often we hear classes that don't even touch on that. Prabhupada, in almost every class, would some of the greatest appearance day festivals of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, or Lord Nityananda's appearance day, which is coming up next Monday. Prabhupada almost always goes back to the basic, the preliminary, the primary, first A, B, C, the A of the B of the A, B, and C. So the mind's, yeah, okay, it's boring. If we either say, oh yeah, I've heard that, or the other extreme, one day I'll get it. Neither will be effective. So we should say, mind, thank you very much. I'm I'm interested in getting free, completely free. And according to Prabhupada here in Bhagavad Gita, the way to become free is to give up the idea on any level, to any degree, that I am this body or mind or extended self, family, country, nation, community, world, whatever. So everyone says, I want to be free, I want to be happy. And almost no one gets that the way to become free and happy is to get free of that false conception, that false identification. So actually, this is the most exciting thing. Someone may say, well, what do you mean? Radha and Krishna, Madhurya Ras. That's the most exciting thing. Harinam Sankirtan is the most exciting thing. I'm not interested, I'm not attracted. I accept in principle that I'm not my body, but it's not really exciting. And yet, in our conditioned state, this is the most exciting thing because it means complete freedom. I remember when I first heard the idea from the devotees that I'm different from my body, that I have nothing to do with this body or mind, the mental concoctions and distractions and all that stuff. I had a sense of liberation. I said, wow, I'm going to reduce this glare. In real life, it doesn't feel like it's very bright, but it's obviously very bright on the screen. It's probably going to be quite dark for me, but I can turn on another light. So this is the most exciting thing. So we want excitement. We're not, just like Krishna is on the Moili, pleasure seeking individual person. We also are pleasure seeking. We not only want, now it's right over there. We not only want happiness and freedom and enjoyment, but we need it. We need to have spiritual, we need to have excitement, some taste, some enjoyment. And therefore, even as struggling devotees, even after many years, we may not feel that excitement. And without that excitement, without that impetus, where is their question of being enthusiastic? So one devotee asked Prabhupada, how can we be enthusiastic? Prabhupada said, just be enthusiastic. At the same time, if we don't have proper association, which is encouraging, exciting, inspiring in every aspect of our life. But Prabhupada is giving us Gita. Krishna is giving us Gita. Krishna and Prabhupada are giving us Gita so we can change our lives. It must be practical. So how is it that when I think I am not this body, or I should realize I'm not this body and get free from the bodily conception, then I'm not excited about that. First is maybe I'm listening to my mind. Oh, yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah, what's next? Or maybe one day, that's either ignorance or avoidance, self-doubt, discouragement. Yeah, one day I'll understand, and I'll just go on chanting, and I'll get my rounds done. I'll struggle to do 16 or whatever I've committed to, or whatever number at all. If we're not excited, inspired, and enthused by what we do, we won't be able to continue. Of course, that comes through quality association. So it's very important that we choose who we associate. as described in the Nectar of Instruction. There are seniors in spiritual life, there are peers, and there are juniors. And we have a certain relationship with each type of those devotees. We serve and take association with those who are senior, more advanced than we are. We make friends with, associate with, share with those who are peers. And with those who are juniors, we try to help them. We give them enthusiasm. We inspire them. We enthuse them according to our level of realization. And if we're doing it carefully and properly, we will be able to inspire others. And at the same time, we need to be inspired. Otherwise, how will we inspire others? So there are many activities in bhakti. And according to our psychophysical nature, Prabhupada says here in the Gita also, we should be engaged with and by those who are able to guide us. As I was saying last time, they're competent and confidential in helping us. So we can see, all right, so I accept this philosophy. I'm not this body. Okay, I got it. And yet, if I look at the particular challenges, just consider yourself. And as before, I encourage everyone to write something, chat your name and where you are, Hari Bol or Hare Krishna, just to let me know you're present, conscious, and accounted for. Think about what is a difficult challenge, a bad habit that you have, that you know you should either reduce or ultimately give up, or a difficulty in a relationship with a spouse, with a child, with a parent, a friend, a co-society, community member. This is reality. We're in the material world. So how do I bring, what does it mean that Bhagavad Gita is the answer, the universal panacea, the answer for all problems? Does it mean, how to give people prasadam instead of just feeding the hungry and not giving them Krishna consciousness? Does it mean exposing whoever in the material world is trying to manipulate us and getting overwhelmed with fear or rejection of pandemics? Is that the main problem? No. I mean, those may be problems, but unless we understand and tackle and get help and resolve our own personal challenges, our own individual challenges in our own lives, especially our relationship with ourselves in terms of dealing with the mind and senses, then we're not going to be able to make any difference, or hardly any difference, significant, powerful difference with those other more general problems, so-called all-pervading problems. Stephen Covey talks about how in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, how we have a circle of influence and we have a circle of concern. Our circle of influence is the areas and the relationships in which we can make a difference. Our circle of concern is maybe a broader circle where we don't have influence. We're concerned about it, we're upset or angry about it. Classic example is the present situation in the world with mandates and the inoculations that are being pushed on people, for better or for worse, depending on what information you listen to or understand. we may be concerned about these things, but are we able to make any difference, any influence in that greater circle of concern? If not, we may be simply wasting our time and our breath, and in fact, perpetuating the contamination of our own consciousness, worry about things that we cannot do anything about. Just like we know that the Mahabhagavat, the pure devotee, has no inclination. He's free from the tendency to criticize others. Does that mean he doesn't criticize? Of course he criticizes, but the word criticism may have negative connotations. But Srila Prabhupada criticized sometimes his disciples. He chastised them. He corrected them. If one is in a position to help someone else who you see may be doing something wrong, if you're in a position, you have a relationship with them that by which they will listen to you, that's one criteria for mentioning or pointing out someone's mistakes, someone's faults, someone's deviations. So we have that circle of influence, and we have a circle of concern. So best we work as much as possible, best completely work within our circle of influence, and then we'll make a difference. So look at what your circle of influence is. How much are you potent, enthusiastic to use your mind more and more in the service of Guru and Krishna? How much are you effective? How much are you effective with your family members at your work? I know one devotee told me recently that the management of his company where he's worked for some years approached him and asked him, if we accept the mandates for vaccination, will you continue working with us? And the devotee said no. He was obviously very clear, fixed in his integrity. He knew, he understood what was right according to his perception and realization, and he would leave. And the company, the management said, okay, we will not enforce the mandates, even though we're being pressured to do so. So that devotee has influence. The people, the management of the company where he works, the business where he works, takes seriously what he thinks and says and does. Perfect example. That was quite recent. The devotee told me that. So how we apply, because if I understand, if I actually realize, and it's gradual, yes, that I am not my body, then my life will change dramatically. Now we tend to avoid, we just, oh yes, I've heard that so many times, etc. And then we may start talking about higher levels of Krishna consciousness, Leela, Raganuga Bhakti, Radha Krishna, Leela, pastimes, Madhurya Ras, love of Krishna. I remember for many years, I would hear, I should love Krishna. For me, I couldn't relate with it. I hardly knew what love really was, real love. When we speak of love Krishna, I've been in this world practicing, committed, dyed in the wool to reject Krishna because I'm Krishna. That's why we're here, to imitate Radha and Krishna, to usurp Krishna's position. So we have to kick out Krishna. Practicing for countless lifetimes, that habit doesn't go away. So I understand now why I couldn't even relate with love of Krishna. That's changing little by little. At the same time, I hear many classes where devotees are focusing on that higher level of consciousness and realization. And yet, even though it's important to know about those things, I'm not minimizing that we should know about Raganuga. We have to know about the steps and the highest levels. Prabhupada talks about it many times, but much more in probably every situation, class or conversation, discussion, or in his written ecstasies, purports in his books, again and again. Don't jump beyond where you really are. Don't try to jump up so high. If we have the foundation of realizing with enthusiasm, with appreciation, and having the experience of being beyond my body, here and now, it's dangerous. You can build a big palatial castle, but it will be like castle in the sand because the foundation is not solid, and then the waves of the material energy, three modes of nature, just come and wash it away. So we need to have that solid foundation, and we won't be inspired to strengthen, to build that foundation if we're not getting taste. Taste doesn't just come when you come to Vatsalya or Madhurya. Taste is available now, and there is the greatest taste on our level that can be derived and experienced by understanding and realizing that I'm not my body. As we realize more and more that we're not the body, then we will know what to do. We will know how to deal with the present difficult challenges in our lives, whether it's our health, our finances, our career, our relationship, our marital or non-marital status. What service is best for me? Or how can I live in the material? How can I do my work in the material world and make it spiritual and be Krishna conscious? Prabhupada said you can work in the factory and be Krishna conscious. There's no limitation. So how do we do that? So the more we realize that I'm not this body, again, Prabhupada writes, the whole purpose Bhagavad Gita was spoken to liberate one from the bodily conception of life. That's the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita. There's much more, but that's where we start. We build the foundation. So we get that we experience that liberation, that excitement, the fun of realizing I'm not my body. I'm beyond. I have nothing to do. It's like oil and water. They may be together, but they never mix. So we'll know exactly. Of course, that may mean going to get some confidential advice from a qualified devotee, a competent and confidential devotee who can help us in our marriage, in our finances, in our career choices, with our health. And maybe that may even be outside of the Vaishnava community, as long as we take that association and guidance carefully. We'll know how to do it, how to do that. Not that we just expect to know. Prabhupada Krishna does say that the symptom of the devotee is that they know what to do and what not to do. Whereas the demoniac, materialistic, most of us may be largely still in that consciousness, although we relate with devotional consciousness and devotional association. We identify ourselves at least as aspiring devotees, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. We take that association carefully. And we admit our consciousness is contaminated. We just read that last week. We should know that our consciousness is contaminated. So what are we doing about that that gives us joy? Not just mechanical or humdrum, same old, which is often our experience. Oh yeah, okay, I'll chant my rounds today. That joy, that taste, that fun, that excitement, that adventure of realizing and experiencing, I'm not my body. That's where it all starts. We'll know what to do or how to resolve the real present day, moment to moment challenges or problems in our lives right now. We had an interesting experience last Saturday morning here in Whangarei in relation to knowing what to do and what not to do. We have a book table every Saturday morning next to the Food for Life, Hare Krishna Food for Life, Prasadam. Hey, what's that? It's not allowed. Thank you. Next to the Hare Krishna Food for Life Prasadam stall, which is like the hub of the universe in Whangarei, every Saturday morning. Right, exactly straight across the road, there's the farmer's market, which is a very high level place. They only allow people to sell what they have grown. And this big market, very popular, high quality produce. And straight across the street, we're there with the most luscious, delicious, lip-smacking prasadam. People come from all around, I think even outside of Whangarei. Sometimes there are queues all around the block to get the samosas, the phyllo pastries, the croissant, the freshly baked bread, the laddu, in the winter the chai, the pizza boats, the apple turnovers, the cinnamon buns, the mango lassi, and Tulsi's famous Ayurvedic chai punch. So we're there. People come to get their prasadam, and at the end, oh, what are these books? So we're there every Saturday giving out books, distributing books, seeing who is ready to look at something beyond this bodily hell. And there are many here. Sometimes people send people to us asking for Bhagavad Gita. And Buddha has such a huge supply of all of Prabhupada's books. So last Saturday, one man had come by, and he wasn't interested in the books. He was just there, getting his prasadam, getting ready to be purified once again, without any knowledge of what was happening in terms of his purification, his advancement, his connection with Krishna. And he put some stuff in his shopping bag and put his money away in his pocket, and he walked across the street. And Amitabha Prabhu was there with me. We're doing the book table together. And both of us see that there's this $20 bill getting blown across the street, almost going down the drain. And Amitabha Prabhu said, is that man's? I said, I'm not sure, probably. what should we do? One other devotee was there with us. He said, oh, just put it in the donation box. Be good for him. And Ami Atman and I looked at each other and said, nope. So Ami Atman, he said, shall I grab it? And the man was across the street going into the farmer's market across. So he ran across, out, grabbed the bill, and ran after the man. Now, I didn't see, because the man went into the market, what happened. Ami Atman told me exactly what happened later. This is just astounding. So Ami Atman followed the man and caught up with him. And the man at that point, when Ami Atman was just about to say something to him, this man had just bought something from one of the farmer's market tables, and he was just putting his hand into his pocket to take his money out. And if he'd put his hand in his pocket to get money, it wouldn't have been there, because that money had come out of his pocket. So right then, Ami Atman said, I think this is yours, sir. And there's this devotee, full devotee dress. Here's your $20. The man was gobsmacked, of course. And Ami Atman said, I think you dropped this. It was over on the street next to our food stall and our book table. And the man, I don't know if he actually said anything, but he was certainly very grateful. And then at that moment, the man really looked in his pocket. He said, there were two. Did you see two $20 bills? So the man ran back the same train. There was another $20 bill sitting there that we hadn't seen. And he grabbed it. So what would you have done? Ask yourself, what would you have done in that situation? Because someone may say, well, if you put the money in the donation box that's used for Krishna, this man is going to get a Gyata Sakriti. He'll get devotional points for that. Knowingly or unknowingly, he'll get the result. Fire will burn, whether the baby knows about it, understands it or not. And two of us thought, no. Imagine the effect that taking that money back to that man will have on that man. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna. So what will giving the man's money back to him have effect on him? I expect that man will never forget that. Here's a Hare Krishna devotee. He could have kept my money, pocketed or whatever, but he brought it back to me. So this kind of gentlemanly, high quality, sattvic, in our understanding, transcendental behavior, that is a very, very powerful preaching act. Acting here, this is your money, you take it. He was very, very grateful, and I expect he'll never forget that this Hare Krishna devotee didn't keep the money, he brought it back to me. Imagine the impression and the effect that has and will remain with that man, maybe the rest of his life. And he will certainly become more inclined, because now he trusts what his trust in the Hare Krishnas, his respect, appreciation, and gratitude towards the Hare Krishnas will certainly have changed or improved, increased. What could be more powerful? Preaching. Prabhupada says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that anyone who even appreciates or likes the Hare Krishna Sankirtan movement, he gets as much effect or result as someone who's actively engaged in the service, in the Sankirtan activity. Transcendental, complete. Krishna sees it in the same way. So that is one result of understanding I am not this body. One becomes clear and conscious. One becomes more and more liberated from material conception, from the effects of the material modes of nature. So naturally, the clear consciousness, the chit aspect of who we are, Sat Chit Ananda, the knowledge, consciousness, awareness, quality manifests more and more. We'll know what's best to do because, yes, someone could say that it could have been better to put that man's money in the donation box for Krishna and have it used directly in Krishna service. Who knows what he's going to do with that money? He may buy some cow flesh. Yeah, so many factors, and we could discuss it. And yet, two of us thought that the best way to deal with this situation was to give the money back to the man. Yes, we could discuss that. At the same time, in long-term preaching, Prabhupada wanted people to respect us. He wanted people to like us, because then they'll like Prabhupada and Krishna. If they don't like us for whatever reason, or that just isn't there, even if they're neutral, why would they come to Krishna consciousness unless they're really ready? This man, I have no doubt, has taken a huge step in his appreciation, his gratitude, his respect. People want to have leaders, people, examples who are heroes, who are respectful, who are acharyas, who are examples. Why is it they have the big huge convoy in Canada, making a huge difference? But if you listen to what they're saying, remove Trudeau, stop the mandates. Yes, great. But then what do you have in replacement? Who's going to replace Trudeau? Yeah, you remove all the mandates, and in one sense, it's the same. Maya's mandates are there already. You have to get old, you have to get sick, you have to die, and you have to be reborn again. And all the concomitant complexities and pinpricks in life as we go along from amongst all those four major problems. The mandates are there, whether they're extreme and external or they're in the background, invisible. We are suffering. If we don't die of COVID or some injection, or we isolate ourselves from those who are pushing that agenda, does that mean we won't die next week? No. In that sense, nothing changes. So we want to help people to be attracted to Krishna. We want to behave. We want to know exactly what to do in each situation that will best advance their and our Krishna consciousness. That's preaching. And Prabhupada said we should preach in a way that people accept it. Now, does that mean everyone's going to accept it? No. But the better we become in our realization, I'm different from this body, I'm beyond, that clarity, that inspiration, that enthusiasm, in realizing that the A of the ABCs, that I'm beyond this body, I'm a transcendental spirit soul, I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. Jeev Swarupaya Nityara Krishna Das. Lord Chaitanya himself gave the example. I am not a Brahmin, I am not a Shudra, I am not a Grihastha, I am not sannyas. I am the servant of the servant of the servant of the maidservants of Krishna. That's who I am. Jeev Swarupaya Nityara Krishna Das. That is available from the very beginning in Bhagavad Gita. And we need to have the taste, the joy, the fun, the excitement, the adventure of realizing that. So let's look at what our mind is saying when we hear, oh, you're not this body. How are we responding to that? Because that the realization of it is gradually more and more full of joy, bliss, freedom, complete freedom, and peace. confidence, all those qualities of the soul, they manifest the more we leave aside the bodily conception. Of course, leaving aside the bodily conception means experiencing the qualities of the soul. We're not just negating, although Prabhupada stresses so often. Still, we have to have the balance, because Prabhupada also said detachment from matter and sense gratification means attachment to Krishna. So how can I understand, how can I realize more and more that I'm not my body in the service that I have, in the relational exchanges I have with other people, whether it's with devotees or employees, our families, our friends, people we meet at the supermarket. How are we understanding and applying in devotional service the realization that I'm Satchidananda? How we do that? That's a science, and that's there in Bhagavad Gita. That's there in Bhagavad Gita. The ABCs, the very first things. So, yes, we may understand so many things about Rasa Lila. We read it in the Krishna book, and Prabhupada gives it to us according to, in a way that by which we can assimilate it and understand it according to our level of realization, and based on the reality that I am transcendental servant of Krishna. All right, one of your streams is having connection issues. I'm not sure if that's me, but thank you, Sitapati, for signing in, letting us know who and where you are. Not where, but so. Anyone else, please? As I always encourage everyone, please put out questions or realizations or doubts or challenges, anything that comes. If you're on live, put that in, and I'll finish talking now, although there's unlimited more to say, because I always like to have interaction. With this restream format, it's very difficult to have that, because I don't even know who's there unless you say something. But if you have some question, some challenge, some appreciation, some doubt, some thought, suggestion, something to add, please put it on chat. If you're live, that's most welcome now. And if you're watching this later on, because it may be a very inconvenient time for most people, being at work or whatever, then you can put that on the Facebook or YouTube comments. So we'll give anyone a few moments or a minute or two to put anything in. If nothing, please put in your name and Haribol or Hare Krishna or whatever you'd like to share or ask. I hope I've stimulated some thought and some practical application of the first chapters of Bhagavad Gita from this introduction. And unless and until there's more, I'll read a little from your side. I'm going to read some more from this first third of the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is. The last sentence I read was, thank you, Sitapati. Great to have you here. Please share some realization. I think I listened to almost all your video clips from the time before and after your good wife left this present bodily situation. I was very impressed by your commitment and your depth of realization. It sounded like a lot of devotees were inspired like that. We did Harinam at Parliament yesterday, and people were favorable and Jai. Wow. Let us know what your guesstimate of how many people were in that area when you were doing Harinam. Amyama Prabhu shares, how does one find objective guidance? Everyone, even devotees, seem to be tainted by their own objectives or conditioning. Whew! Hey, Amyama, that's a deep one. Right to the crux, taking it deeper than where I went. Sitapati says there were at least 1,000 people there at Parliament. Awesome. I don't know if there was any televising going on, but it could have been many thousand more. Okay. Sitapati is going to share with us what he wrote. So for now, I'm going to focus on your question, Amyama Prabhu. How does one find? Yeah. So if it seems that even the devotees we approach, they are often or may be tainted by their own objectives or conditioning. Now that requires discrimination in the healthy sense of the word. Prabhupada says discrimination is a bitter part of valor. So my first sense is, well, right. So we want to find someone to help us with a particular challenge or problem in our so-called material life, in the material context, or in our spiritual advancement. So if we don't have faith, how do I know? How do I know who to approach? So my experience is when I trust someone, I have respect for someone, and I'm simultaneously encouraged and inspired by this person's not only words but their example. I mean, I like to hear good advice, and I'd even more like to see the person's example, because that, as Prabhupada says, practice is better than precept. Practice. So my sense is you can trust the super soul, your so-called gut sense, your gut feelings about someone. Sometimes you immediately feel comfortable with someone, and sometimes you may feel uncomfortable with someone else. So that's an important to listen to your gut reaction, which is usually can be aligned with super soul. Now that also has to be confirmed by Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So we're not going to be sentimental about that. So find someone you trust. And of course, Prabhupada is always there. He says that every single page of my books is a personal letter to my followers. And you probably had the experience. You have a challenge or a question or problem, you open up Bhagavatam or Gita somewhere, just almost randomly, and there's the answer. Or you listen to a lecture of Prabhupada, and it's like he's talking to me, according to my present situation. He's a transcendental personality. Krishna is speaking through him, and all that advice is there. As the Bible says, seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened. So we need to make the endeavor to look and not give up. Oh, all the devotees are tainted. Even so, at least according to Nectar Devotion, we associate with those who are more advanced. They may still be tainted. They may not be perfectly pure. But if their example and their words, both words and example, especially their example, inspires me, encourages me, shows me how to do it, I want that association, and I'm going to trust that Krishna will give that to me plentifully if I keep looking. Seek and you shall find. Trust, have that deep faith. Develop that deep faith. So thank you very much, and I'd like to hear anyone's thoughts about what I've said. Now, this is what Sitapati said he's written afterwards, after the Harinam at Parliament. It was interesting for me to return to Wellington to do Harinam today. 24 years and 1 month ago, I got off the inner city bus and Param Baba picked me up. Then I did Harinam indiscriminately and profusely in that city for 3 years. and sat in the ashram drinking hot milk and reading the 12th canto, Symptoms of Kali Yuga, with the Prabhus. The government are hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. Quote, the government are hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, and cheat the population, taxing them into ruination, and now maybe injecting them into ruination and death. We need to replace them with Krishna-conscious leaders and get rid of democracy. Woo! And establish Varnashram Dharma. End quote. Maybe you can give us a reference to that when you have a chance, Sitapati. 12th canto anyway. Me and Prahlad parked at the Sky Stadium right next to the bus station and then just did exactly the same thing. I haven't changed anything. So what has changed? Kirtaniyak Siddhahi, always, Nasmarane Nakala, in all times and circumstances. I think that Prabhupada was asked when war would start between Pakistan and India, what we should do. Prabhupada said, when the bombs start to fall, we should go in Harinam in all times and circumstances. And then Sitapati says more, devotees are now being told, don't do Harinam at protests. What happened, quote unquote, don't do Harinam at protests? And he asked, what happened to the Haight-Ashbury mood? Very significant, relevant questions, pertinent questions. Very, very valuable. Thank you, Sitapati. So, getting quite lively here. I'm very enthused by all of your association and these serious questions and challenges. What do we do now, here and now? So the more, my original point was, the more we understand we're different from this body, we will become more and more clear who to go to, what to do in a particular situation, what to challenge, what not to challenge. Do I spend lots of time if I believe that we're being persecuted in so many ways by the authorities that be, which Prabhupada says is their business, as Sitapati has so nicely pointed out. Again, how much energy do I put into exposing them or warning the devotees? Sometimes I hear so much warning, endless posts, and yet I think, well, devotees are given the intelligence that they want to, in order to act in these challenging times. If they don't want to know what I think is true, then why am I wasting my breath? Yes, I can offer. This is a broad discussion. Yes, I'm not saying we shouldn't know what's going on. We should know exactly what's going on. But how much do we go through? How much do we try to propagate that? For me, it's a big question. It's a big question. Because Prabhupada said we should preach Krishna consciousness. Now, if I can join a convoy or do Harinam at Parliament and have people like me, like the devotees, as Sitapati said, they were very much appreciated yesterday at Parliament. So if people like us, then that is one way of preaching. Atma Prabhu went out in our neighborhood here yesterday on book distribution, door to door. The first house, next door neighbor, he's interested in Bhagavad Gita. He bought a Bhagavad Gita. And if he studies Bhagavad Gita seriously, he's going to understand more what's going on. He'll have the parameters, the contrasts, and he'll be more clear about what's best for him in his spiritual life. And we may discuss with him about pandemics and injections, etc. And we want to keep it Krishna-centered, according to that person or that group's level of consciousness. Now it's getting late. We've gone over an hour, and I always like to keep it to an hour, so please keep sharing. This will be on the YouTube Krishna Katha Auckland page, and also the Krishna Katha Auckland Facebook page. So very valuable questions and thoughts and comments based on our struggle to understand how best to spread Prabhupada's mission, the Sankirtan mission, here and now, starting with ourselves. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita as it is, ki jai. Sadhu Sangha ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. And remember, next Monday is Nityananda Trayodasi. Very important, most auspicious day. So arrange some celebration, hearing and chanting about the most merciful Lord. Nityananda Vadutendur, Vasudha Pranavalava, Janavi Jivitapati, Krishna Prema Pradata Prabhu, Padmavati Sutta Shriman Sachinandana Purvaja, Bhavonmato Jagatrata Rakta Gora Kalivara. Sri Nityanandaram is the embodiment of eternal bliss. He is the moon of all Avadutas. He is the beloved of the life breath of his wife, Janavi, and he is the husband enthusing Janavi with life. He bestows ecstatic love for Krishna, and he is the Lord and Master of the devotees. Sri Nityanandaram is the dear son of Sri Padmavati, and he is full of all splendorous transcendental majesty. Nitai is the older brother of Sachimata's son, Nimai, and he is overwhelmed with maddening ecstatic emotions. He is the savior of the universe. He is the savior of the universe, and his complexion is golden, tinged with red. Shri Nityananda Balaram ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare.